San Antonio! Welcome to All Things San Antonio podcast with your host and favorite realtors, Brad Burns and
Ken Carter.
And we're here with our favorite realtor, Anthony White.
Your third favorite realtor.
So, Anthony, tell us about yourself. What you got going on? Are you from San Antonio originally, or what brought you here?
So I am not originally from San Antonio. I'm a military brat. I can't say where I'm from because people kind of judge you from.
Where's that?
I just told you I was from Arkansas, and I was.
But it's different.
Blytheville, Arkansas. I was born on the Air Force
different.
Base. I was a military kid too.
See, but this is what's going to happen, right? This is going to be like, I see how you guys do in and out. I see how you do.
You're from California.
So you're from California?
I was born in California.
Navy kid.
I was born. I was born in California.
My dad was born in California.
Was he?
Yeah, but he got here when he was like 2.
Yeah, I didn't get here, but I only lived in California for like a year.
You got out as quick as you could.
Yeah.
Was your family Navy or is it
Army?
Army?
Mm-hmm.
Your mom and your dad, or just your dad?
My dad was an MP. My mom did X-ray techs.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how old were you when you moved to San Antonio?
I moved to San Antonio. I moved here in '96. So I feel like I'm a.
So
San
like, were
Antonio.
you still in high school or?
I was still in middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
I moved. I'm puro San Antonio. But I moved here in '89 when I was a junior in high school, and my dad was it was literally the 11th place. I was 16. This was the 11th place we had lived.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like, I love San Antonio.
Did y'all bounce around like that pretty often too, or that many times?
Yeah, we went to Germany twice. We went to Maryland, and then we came here.
Oh.
So besides San Antonio, which one was your favorite, or do you remember them very much?
I don't remember none of them.
Germany's nice. We visited there.
Germany's nice, but it's cold there, and if I never see snow again, I think I'm okay.
Well, it's a warm year. It's funny how warm, because like we're right before Thanksgiving, and it's just now getting to 50, and we just had 2 back-to-back years where we had Snowmageddons and all these things, and now it's like...
Snowmageddon was so nice.
I really enjoyed that.
Nobody was calling. Like,
I was showing homes on the day it happened. Full ice, Highway 90. I drove from Alamo Heights area all the way to Alamo Ranch, just finding a way to get there.
Did they buy?
They still haven't bought. There's I swear to God, it was an open house client that I found. They were complaining then that the prices were going up too much. And I call them still like every 6 months, and they're like, "Man, the houses just aren't worth that." I'm like,
"They're worth what someone's paying."
Keep renting, dude. Just keep on doing it.
No,
Hey, but the market was crazy during that time because we had one house that ended up with some busted pipes and stuff, but that house had like 100 showings over a weekend.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was priced a little bit low, but it was crazy, yeah. But now the market's a little different now.
Oh yeah.
So you grew up. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you grew up in San Antonio. Went to high school here and everything. What was? Because I know later. We'll just spill the beans. Y'all are McDonald's brothers.
Hold on, but where did you go to high school at?
I went to Judson.
Ken went to Judson.
Did you?
Class of '91.
Oh.
To the Rockets, to the sky, baby.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's why I asked, because I just
Yeah.
went there.
Yeah, I grew. My dad bought one of those phenomenal Ray Ellison homes right there in Ventura Spring Meadows.
Oh, yeah.
Myrtle Trail, right before Northampton was built out.
You know what I have a hard time with? I have a hard time when I see those houses on the market. I look at the prices of those. I'm like, those houses aren't worth that.
$89,000. My dad bought it for $89,000 in 1989.
That's crazy.
What was your favorite part about that area? Like, is it the...
Judson was great. I ain't even gonna lie, especially then because it Rolling Oaks Mall had just opened. Right, it was like it wasn't, and it was as busy then as it is now, just open.
I don't even know if it's still a mall.
It's nothing. It's partial universe, but like we would you'd have field parties. Like when I was there at Judson, we had 2 party groups. One was called JABC, JBC, the Judson Alcoholic Beverage Consumers, and Lotus, the Last of the Ultimate Seniors, and they would pass out flyers. And they would find some farm field, and they would have the gate, and you go in, they'd have kegs, and it was $5 a person. You go in, and you just drink and stuff like that. And, because you're handing out flyers at school, every single one got busted by cops. Every single one.
That was the fun part, though.
Then you're everybody's dancing through the
running and...
But it was cow pastures back then.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, literally all these neighborhoods that we now sell through is all cow pastures.
Yeah.
And it was in Judson was winning championships. We won in '88, and it was a good time to be a Rocket when I was there.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
I am a real estate investor who has a real estate license. I've kind of rebranded.
I like that brand.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite brands.
No, I serve in the community through real estate. I like specifically solving problems. I realize, one of the things that I learned when I reflect, I realize at the core of who I am a rehabber. When it was McDonald's, I rehab McDonald's. When there's people, I try to rehab people with these houses. Like, I really enjoy restoring and bringing something and making it new and better and all that fun stuff. And I don't know how, even like cars, I used to do that with cars. And like, I just noticed this is a trend of like who I am and how
You
I
like
do
fixing
things.
stuff.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're like a materialistic person at all and like gathering things, like new things or stuff? Or is that even to the point where it's like you'd rather find something, even like your own furniture, you'd rather find something and repurpose it again?
I would much rather repurpose. I think as with a combination of value, right? Mm-hmm. Looking at value, sometimes you can get things, and looking at quality. A lot of times, the quality of older construction of vehicles or furniture or houses or some of those things seems to be a lot better. And then you have the character and the touches, and then you can kind of add to it. I'm not, I've never bought a new car. I've never bought a new house. I don't know. It's interesting. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, a lot of my family has bought lots of things, right? Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't think that I've really bought too much new stuff. So I guess I wouldn't consider myself materialistic.
But you do like to collect stuff, right?
I do like.
That's what Sylvia says.
Yeah, collect. Some people say hoard. I don't really agree with that. Shaming.
It's interchangeable.
Yeah. What do you like to collect?
It's not.
Or acquire.
It's not so much. This is the thing. When I look at something that can still be used or still has utility, it's just hard for me just to let it die. And almost to a fault, right? Even with people, like if I feel like there's something there, like it's almost really hard to let go, even when it needs to go.
Yeah.
But there's, we fight about things because we may take a light fixture and we're renovating the house. We take a light fixture down, it still has utility, right? It's not something and so for somebody, even though we won't ever use it again because it's not in step with how we do things, somebody has the ability to use it. Even today, literally today, somebody came and picked up a stove that I pulled out of a project, and I was going to try and use it, but whatever. But somebody literally came to pick up a stove that I had, and so to me, like had I thrown it away, that's something I was able to serve, right? That was somebody who was able to benefit from it. And so sometimes I realize some of the things that I'm holding on to is specifically, like it doesn't cost me anything, especially, except space and sometimes the time to haul it around or whatever like that. But to be able to serve somebody and be able to make a connection or be able to add value to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see more and more, I kind of feel similar ways because like we live in such a consumer society where like landfills are getting bigger, and it's like we can only do so much as to like save the environment or whatever. Right. As an individual point. Like you try to say like I'm not going to use plastic and everything, but like every single thing you buy is plastic. Your food's in plastic. You can't get away from these things, right? So like the little things that you can do of like repurposing and like we had John Bloodsworth come in the other day, and he goes around, does all the antiquing.
He talked about our plant. He was like, "Oh, look, it's perfect because y'all can turn it around the other way because it has a crack on this side."
See, this is something me and Sylvia would fight about because she would say, "Just throw it away," and I'm like, "It still has utility."
It's absolutely, and again, we'll show this again, and Eric loves it. It's like it's cracked on this side, but for the viewers at home,
you'll never know.
But
it's a beautiful succulent.
But this is the other thing, right? There's probably a story there.
I love a story.
And without that, right, if you just throw it away, the story never gets told. But being able to see that, for me, some of those things, I'm able to connect with, oh, yeah, this is the time of this thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if is there a good story for this one?
Oh, I don't know. It's not much land, but
is there a good story?
Somebody probably dropped it one time.
Is there a good story why that's broken? We're calling you.
It was one of the mics.
Hey, but you know what the story is in the beginning of this podcast studio, Like and it's been here ever since.
It still works.
And it still works.
Right.
You
hear that, Sylvia? It still works.
It still works. But we were talking about before. It's like that's one of the things I like when we go out of town, like to Comfort or whatever, in those little antique stores, walking through and like it's a great prompt to tell like my kids and like my younger ones like, okay, we used to play with this and this is how this was, and like there's like who knows how many kids played with that thing, and it's like still helping and like giving happiness.
So it's interesting that you talk about like an antique store. And I don't know if maybe there's just not a connection. When I don't get anything from walking in an antique store.
Interesting.
No, like if I go in there, like it just, and maybe it's sensory overload. Maybe there's just too much stuff. But I walk in there.
Packed in.
When I walk in there, I want to walk out.
Maybe you're a little cheap. You don't want to pay for the old
You know
stuff.
what? That's probably a big part of it.
I mean,
because I got that same thing
for free
on the side of the road, Highway 90, 90 in Ray Ellis, and it was a cloudy day that day.
It's a big thing. Like, free junk is cool.
It is.
But when you got to pay for the junk, it's not as cool.
Well, it's not supposed to be junk at that point. That's when it becomes an antique. We're not talking about buying junk.
It's still junk though. But so doing real estate investing now, what did you do before you got into real estate? I know the answer, but tell the people.
So I was a McDonald's store manager. By default, I ended up fixing stores. They kept sending me to the problem stores, and I kind of turned them around. You know, I think one of the things that I appreciate is the opportunity. You know, I worked first with a larger organization, the largest organization in San Antonio, and I got an opportunity to fix a store. They sent me to another store. I got to fix that store, you know, earned some accolades, outstanding, top 10%. They sent me to another store that I absolutely hated on Rigsby.
Every restaurant on Rigsby is bad for the most part. Though.
Yeah. I think what I hated most about it was I got sent over there when the company was doing a transition. And so I always struggled. So the first store I went to, I went super hard, right? And everybody quit. And I was like, oh, maybe I got to dial it back a bit. And when I went to that store, it didn't have a store manager. It didn't have leadership for a few months. And so when I came in, you know, I think people thought, oh, he's going to be cool because he's black, it's whatever. And at the same time, the company was going through a change where the company was saying, you can't have visible tattoos. You have to remove them. And I'm going to Rigsby, and they're thinking I'm the one bringing that. So I had so much fighting. I had to fight with the employees because it was like, hey, there's a little bit of a time, but you have to, if you haven't by this timeline started, and I have to be the enforcer of that. And it's not something I necessarily agree with.
And you have to pay to get your tattoos removed off the minimum wage?
So,
or you can't just cover them?
No, at that time, eventually they evolved into
I know.
cover.
It's been such a crazy thing.
But initially, they had, like, we found something where some company, like, once a month or every other Saturday or something like that, I think it was like $50, and you go pay, and they zap you, and you keep going back until your tattoos are gone. And so the store it had chaos. People weren't showing up to work. They were short-staffed, and I have to come in and say, the rest of you guys here, get rid of your tattoos. And so the standard was really low. They didn't have leadership, and it was just, and even at the time, honestly, I had an awful supervisor. And so it was just one of those things where it felt like I was fighting on all the fronts. But even at that, we were able to make some significant changes there. And so I think I learned something. When I look back, I realized those are the kind of environments that I'm actually a lot more comfortable in.
The chaos.
Yeah, which is crazy. But I'm really comfortable in those situations.
So do you procrastinate on things and then thrive in the chaos part of it?
I try not to. There's some
Sounds
things.
Like you're leading the witness, sir.
No, because I do the same thing. Like,
no, I'm a little bit more of a planner, but there are some things that I just, when I get there, I'll get there. Right.
It's the things that you don't like to do that you do last and everything.
Yeah.
You can't always eat the frog first.
Right.
It's like sometimes
because Anthony knows I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'll go to Club Wealth and teach a class, and I'll be like, hey, look, I'm about to be just as surprised as you guys. What pops up next on the slideshow?
Oh my God, he used to frustrate me. So we didn't know, neither of us knew about disc. And so I'm a higher C, and obviously Bradley's a higher D. And so it would frustrate me because I'd come in early and I'd, plan and do the pre-shift checklist and go through and have my rhythm and routines. I'd have like almost to a T what time everybody was going to go on a break. And Bradley would show up at 4:01, grab the clipboard and say, let's go. And I'm like, you're not prepared.
He goes, I'll get it done. We'll figure it out.
But I was pretty good at figuring it out for the most part.
You're all right.
For the most part.
So you went through some adversity to get where you're at now, with one of them being having to manage me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was always fun.
But, I think that was actually, that was one of many learning experiences because when I came, because of the fact that I had been to several stores, right? I have the experience of, all these different stores, how they did things. When I came to this organization and I came to this store specifically, everybody thought I was the crazy one because the service times were awful. Yeah. And I mean, they were way down.
Like triple, quadruple, normal.
They were awful. So McDonald's standard is 90 seconds, and we'd be running 600 seconds average on a regular basis. And everybody was like, what? What's wrong with that? And I'm like, this is crazy. And they're like, why are you tripping? Why are you trying to do so much? And I'm like, how are you guys okay with this? How are you guys not getting cussed out by everybody? And
isn't it crazy?
They were used to. We trained the customers. But that wasn't even the store I was at when you first got over there. I would just go help out.
It's funny how this translates so much into real estate, where once you have seen a set of standards, it's really hard not to hold people to outside those standards are whoa, it's just crazy. It becomes crazy to you. It's no, this can be done, and this is what we're going to go and do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get trained to do everything has been leading up to this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I can't imagine how much of McDonald's in that experience has helped you in forming a team, doing everything that you're doing now.
So this is what I'd say. There's a certain point where I think most people thought that I was a McDonald's for lifer because of the intensity of I recognized McDonald's for an opportunity, and I said, I realize that this is an opportunity for me to run a business with somebody else's money, right? I get to learn with somebody else's money. So I kind of operated like it was mine because I'm really trying to learn. And so there's so much that I was able to learn from systems and routines, from interacting with people, from learning how customer service. Just even some of the back end and just the logistics. There's so much. I'm so appreciative of my time there. And I think the fact that I got so many different opportunities by going to different stores, it gave me a chance to try it again, right? I went to the one store, I'm like, oh, this worked here.
Fell forward.
It did it. I don't know why it worked. Let me try it again. Let me work out the kinks. And so there was a lot of stuff in that. Also, the connections that I was able to make, right? It's one of those things that, for me, I'm a loner. Most of the time I'm being by myself. But being able to show up in these situations, being able to build credibility with a lot of different people, being able to show I'm showing up authentically. And even, Bradley can tell you when I was there, yes, I was a store manager. Yes, my job was taking care of getting out burgers and fries. But we were also, hey, so let's talk about credit. Hey, let's talk about budget. Right? Hey, what are you doing to make better choices? And so that was one of the things while I was there that actually kept me there because I felt like this is how I'm serving, right? This is something that I really enjoy, even though I feel like I'm not making nearly what I'm worth.
Yeah. Until you go out on your own and actually do it on your own, you never really feel like you're getting what you're worth.
I still don't feel like I'm getting what I'm worth. I got a terrible boss.
Sylvia or you?
Hey, don't do that.
Yes. Leading the witness again.
Yeah, Anthony, one time at McDonald's, somebody was so mad at Anthony. We gave him bus money, right?
Oh, my God.
He gave somebody bus money to get to work. And they were mad, like, afterward. They were happy then, but then afterward they found out Anthony had more than one car. And they were mad that he just didn't give him a car.
No, like, seriously mad. And I mean, not even, like, I thought he was joking at first. He was like,
You can't just give me a
no.
car.
He, like, he could not believe I had an extra car and I didn't give it to him to help him in a situation. And, you know, don't even get me started.
Well, I used to have a dry cleaners, and like I literally would have to like go and pick them up, and like there's the two kids. Like as soon as I got to the job, they were fast, they were good, they were great. They just couldn't get there, and like
We had people like that too.
and it's like man, you have to go pick. It was crazy. Like,
But he was not even one of those people.
It wasn't an A. For grading.
He was not.
one of the good ones.
The reality is, if it would have been one of those people, I probably would have.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have. And I think that's one of those things that people don't realize. Sometimes what you get out of things is based on what you put into it, right? There are so many people there that people have no idea some of the things that I did to help people that wasn't in my job responsibility, but like you're showing up and you're doing some of these things, like I definitely want to recognize that however I can. You know, I'm limited on funds, I'm limited on capacity, I'm fighting with the owner all the time. I promise you I'm fighting with the owner to try and get you some more money. But like
Owners don't like to pay. I didn't like to pay. That's crazy. No one likes to pay. I just tell my guys, it's like, you think you want more money? Go see if you can work at Bill Miller. You got to show up every day.
Oh man. Bill Mills was always a constant threat.
It was always the constant threat. They pay good, everything, but it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Like their standards again. It's like you can't go in there and have 600 seconds on there.
No.
Like you're gonna be gone the next.
Chick-fil-A pays pretty well too.
Chick-fil-A.
Working at the dry cleaners though, like I'd get these kids come in there and it's like hot because you can't AC when you got all the steam going and everything. And in July they think they're gonna have a summer job, and I would literally like. I would start turning there like, hey, sir, I think I left. I need to grab something out of my car just real quick and everything. And then all the time, like, and you always knew it's like, okay, yeah. And you start saying, hey, I need you to come up front and help me out. They're gone.
We had one guy. He quit, like, it was a Friday night. He quit, like, mid-shift. And he was like, hey, can I get my employee meal? And I was like, hey, bro, you don't work here no more.
You did it wrong.
I was like, you don't work here no more. Like, we don't have employee meals for non-employees.
There's a process.
And I was
to
like,
this.
and we have a rule, like, if you don't work here no more, you can't be in the store, so go ahead and wait outside for your ride.
So move it along.
People, I mean, I don't.
So funny story, Bradley mentioned Chick-fil-A. When I left McDonald's, I actually thought I was going to Chick-fil-A. So I went to Bradley's wedding, and the owner of the Chick-fil-A was there. And so we were rapping, and I'd always had the question. One of the employees that we had hired, I didn't even know very much about Chick-fil-A. And one of the employees we hired, she was just like like all the stuff that I was trying to get to, she showed up there. My pleasure, all that stuff. And I'm like, ooh, what is this? And she was like, at Chick-fil-A, we had to do that. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so getting a little bit more into it, and I had heard a little bit about Chick-fil-A, but I didn't really know. And I just knew, I had heard that it was like only $5,000 to get into it. And so when I sat down at Bradley's wedding and I'm talking to the owner operator, and he's like, yeah, it used to be $5,000, it's only $10,000. And so then he's recruiting me, but he's not recruiting me. At the same time, like I'm open to the conversation. Something ended up happening. And so like, it was just one of those things where the writing was on the wall. It was time for me to leave. So I put my notice in, not because of that, but I also, like, it just happened during that time that showed up. And so I let him know that I put my notice in, and I thought he was courting me. And once he knew that I had my notice in, then it kind of changed. And he was like, oh, well, Chick-fil-A, they really want you to be married. They want you to have a college degree. They want you to have some of these things. And I'm like, cool, then I need to go to school. Well, then you're going to have a limited availability. So we're going to have to, and I was like, oh, I see what's happening. Because he was trying to talk me down. And before it was like, oh, yeah, we're always looking for opportunities. Now it's like, oh, well, you're going to be this, because I was very clear, I want to be an operator. Well, long story short, after we continued to have the conversation, it just kind of fell off. Like I felt it turn, and I just said, hey, I don't know what you think is happening, but you're not just going to take advantage of the situation you think is going to be it. So I just kind of said, well, I've already got my notice in. I'm going out here to do something.
Is that when you started doing the real estate? What was the transition to there?
So by this time, I already knew that I wanted to leave. I knew I wasn't happy anymore. So I started tightening up on my budget. I started being really aggressive as far as paying off stuff. And at that time, when everything happened, I didn't know it was going to happen the way it did, but I had basically got to the point where the only thing I had was my mortgage. My mortgage was like $950 or something like that. And so I'm like, I can figure out that, one way or another. So I quit, and I'm just doing odd and end things, cutting grass and selling Spurs T-shirts. I was actually, is this thing can I go to jail now?
It's all hypothetical things that you might be able to do.
I may have been selling T-shirts that were similar to the Spurs when the Spurs were at the height of their run.
Similar.
They're at the height
it was
now,
similar.
aren't they? With Wemby and Castle.
They're getting there.
We have Wemby and Castle. That's
They're
all we
balling
need.
out.
But at this time, so I'm doing all the kinds of odd and end things, and my mom actually gives me one of these invites to these investor classes, and I go to it, not really expecting anything. And then in the class, they say, oh, well, they try and sell you on a $1,500 class, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can figure out the $1,500 class.
Is this the Montelongo one?
No, this wasn't that one. This was, what's this guy's name? It eludes me. But then I Googled the class, and when I Googled the class, they said, oh, this class is good, but they're trying to sell you on a $20,000 class. And I'm like, I know for a fact I can't figure that out. But then at that point, I said, I don't know anything about real estate, but I feel like, based on what I see here, I could learn about it if I just got into real estate.
Yeah.
I could build contractors, I could learn more about the real estate industry, and then I could get into investing that way. And then that's what I did.
Here you are now.
Yeah.
So how long did you get your license? About the same time, Brian?
Nah, he was first.
He gave me McDonald's first.
He gave me the vision to get out.
He's like, get off my cocktails,
I
man.
could do that. I could do that. Because even during McDonald's, if we did any kind of outings or anything like that, we were super competitive with each other. Even day shift and night shift, everything was a competition. And then I was like, I can do that.
Can't imagine there was a competition going on.
It wasn't a competition.
He goes, there was no competition, really.
He had better people in the daytime.
Is that what we're doing?
Look, he had some adults that cared.
It sounds like a little brother talking. It's like, but Dad.
Who's responsible for building their team?
It sounds like no competition.
Who was responsible for hiring? We ain't gonna Victor. Can't talk about him. He's no longer here. But
it happens.
But no, I think too. I don't know. Even when you got into real estate, you had some things that were tough. I think a lot of people look at you now and just say, "Oh, Anthony came in, he did well," and it was just off the rip, everything fell into place. I remember, I look at it now. I remember you posting about. I don't know if you were posting about it or what. You were doing an open house for a rental property by downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And just things I see things like that. I was like, dang, and then I was like, oh
open
man,
house
that's
for
cool.
a rental property.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then now I'm like, bro, that's wild.
It's a wild concept.
Yeah.
I don't like doing open houses. Full stop.
For a rental property. Yeah.
That's crazy.
What were some of the biggest struggles you had coming into real estate, or getting to where you're at now?
I'd say one of the first ones was, because of the fact that I didn't really know anybody in real estate, I didn't think that anybody knew anybody real estate, right? And so then I got my license, and I'm like, hey, I'm a realtor. And, oh, yeah, my cousin's a realtor. Oh, yeah, my dad's a realtor. Oh, yeah, my best friend's a realtor. And I was like, hey, I went all in on this. Uh-oh.
I think a lot of
thought my
us
spirit was
that
just
same
going
trap,
Yeah, it's crazy how quick that shrinks up.
But, that was actually, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful it happened exactly like that, because I went all the way in, and I panicked a little bit and said, hey, I went all in on this, and I have to figure out how can I be different. And so my old slogan was doing a common thing uncommonly, because I looked at it and said, what do I have to do that even if you have a brother in real estate, that you would use me, that you would at least consider using me, right? How do I become phenomenal, exceptional, outside the box.
Mr.
Like,
Perfect.
yeah. and so I really had to hustle up for that. That was one of the things. And of course, after I had been doing this for so long, funds, right? That was one of those things where I had used all of my resources, but I was just so committed. Like, I just understood that this was going to change my life and my future family's life. And so there was no way that I was not going to make it happen.
So will you share one of the things that you went through?
Let's see.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
So this is probably right at, they told me when you get it, you won't have a first deal until you've been in for 9 or 10 months. And I'm like, that can't happen because I'm starving. And so I got some deals early. I got a couple of little deals here or there. But I'm probably somewhere around 9, 10 months in. And it's just, and so like I'd gotten so far out the beaten path, I'm starting to do things. I'm actually looking for foreclosure because I realize a lot of times people don't realize that they can sell their house when they're in the process of foreclosure.
Right.
So I said, I'm going to go get the foreclosure list and I'm going to go help people sell their house. And so I actually ended up finding a property for an investor that I was working with. And boy, that was so much fun. It was not fun. But this investors that I was working with, because they just didn't have it figured out. And I'm like, hey, I know you guys were working with somebody else and that was working for you guys, but I can't. They wanted me to send 100 offers a day. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I just can't. And so I said, let me find something. And this was also in past. So I found somebody and said, which I'm telling you, there were so many crazy things. I had never door knocked a door in my life. And I'm just so hungry. I got to get out there. I got to do this. And I had already understood this is going to make a difference. I'm standing in front of this lady's house, and I rationalize all the things that I think could happen, right? So I finally knock on her door, and she says, "Bueno." I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't ready for Spanish. And so then she asked me if I spoke Spanish. I said, "Poquito." And then she told me something I didn't understand. But then she walked in the house. So I'm like, I think she wants me to follow her. And so we ended up figuring out, she said, I was literally answering her prayers. She normally never asked she never let people in. She never even answered the door when her husband or her son weren't there. So we ended up getting that property. We ended up helping her her and her husband make a good chunk of change. Ended up also getting a property for an investor. We renovated the property. The day that I'm negotiating that property, coming back on were multiple offers on it. I'm on cloud 9 because it's like 11 o'clock and we negotiated $10,000 over the asking price. And I'm just, man, I get home, my lights are off.
Oh.
And I'm like, well, that's cool. I don't need lights. I got water. I got everything else. The next day, my water was off. The next day, I'm driving on 281 and my tire, I have a flat in my tire. And that's when I realized that the spare that I have on this janky car that I bought is not for this car. So my assistant, who was not my full-fledged assistant at the time, actually ended up coming to lend me her spare tire from her car.
Wow.
On the side of 281 so that I could get rolling. That same week, I was actually on my way to go show a property, 37 South. That same week, I put 6 houses under contract.
With no power.
With no power. And now I was so far behind, that wasn't enough. And of course, real estate cycle, you still got 30 days and, you got to close those things. And so there was a lot of stuff going on. So even when those things started to come back, I still had so much stuff. So I was working for about 4 months with no water, no electricity. And it was just, it's got to work. And finally, this is like June or July. And I'm like, I'm sleeping downstairs because my house is a 2-story house and it's so hot. And I'm sleeping. I'm literally coming. But one of the benefits of that is it forced me to be productive, right? I couldn't just be scrolling on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's too hot.
Right? Well, I got to save my power, my cell phone. So I'm out. If I get home, I'm getting home. I go to sleep. I get up, go to the gym so I can shower.
So people have no excuses.
That's what I say. You know, people don't like to hear that from me.
That's one of my favorite stories. I was like, I'm gonna drag this one out because I know you don't like to tell everybody that story, but I was like, man, I think so many people need to hear that story.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that have those issues,
Yeah.
but they won't put any hustle behind it.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that frustrates me because so many people think that I don't get it. You know, there's so many people that I'm like, this is what you need to do. I can see I've got perspective and I got history down the path of where you're at. And I'm saying, hey, this is what you need to do. And they're like, you don't get it. And I'm like, no, I understand very well.
I low-key traded in a car one time because I couldn't make that payment that month. So I wanted to be able to skip a month because I knew I had some deals coming in.
Hey.
And I didn't want to get a hit on my credit.
Right.
So I was like, I'll go trade in the car. Like, we want something bigger anyways.
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy. Like, people, like, it was just given or hand. Like, no, there was freaking work that went into it.
But, and even on the other side, like, now you've kind of transitioned, like you're saying, from, like, being a real estate agent, quote unquote, into more of the real estate investor side of it. And there's so many people jumping in today. Like, I respect that a lot because, like, when I got into real estate, like, my investor mentor suggested I get my license. And then I started hearing them. I went to say where I did my classes, and I was like, oh, these guys have been realtors for a long time, and they're doing a lot of investing stuff. So maybe I want to be a realtor so I can learn. I came to the same conclusion, but it takes me longer. I'm slower in that regards. But, like, and Brad and I, like, we're really getting into the investing side now and everything. And having that deeper knowledge of, like, being an agent first and then becoming an investor, I think that there's a lot of people jumping in and just trying to bypass that. And it's possible. Like, you definitely can do it. But, like, I think that there's a lot of value into doing it the slower way, if you will, and becoming a real estate professional that does investing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value to learning mechanics, right? And I think most people don't want to slow things down, and I don't want to learn the mechanics.
Yeah.
I just want to go fast, right? And you can, like you said, you can get results, but it's hard to be able to create the structure and stability and the long-lasting results if you just go and, like, I did this, and that's one of the things I think frustrates a lot of people when I say, hey, I'll sit down with you and I'll teach you.
Yeah.
They want me to teach them the shortcuts. And I'm like, I'm not going to teach you shortcuts. The reason why, I also am not going to teach you shortcuts because you may not know what to do with them. I may have the skill to do the shortcut.
Yeah.
You may not have we can have the same set of situations and you won't execute it the same way I will. Yeah. And so you trying to do the shortcut may get you in trouble. Right? And so I just, for most people, I refuse to teach the shortcuts. I know the shortcuts. I know a lot of them, but I refuse to teach them. And people get so frustrated. And they figure, I'm gatekeeping, I'm doing this and that. I'm like, find another teacher. Because I think, you know, even going back to, there's so much, it's so funny to see, like, the evolution of who we are. When I was at McDonald's, when I was at the larger organization, right, it was one of those things to where the organization was trying to grow, right? They said in order for McDonald's to give them more stores, they needed to have a whole bunch of managers, right? So they were literally like, hey, can you look nice in that shirt? You want to be a manager? And that's how they wanted us to do. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So I would fight with my supervisor because I'm like, if I'm putting my name on them, they're going to be a stud.
Yeah.
I'm not just putting people in here just to put them in here. And so we're going through and I'm teaching. And so the managers that came from me were stellar. But there's a lot of managers that are in. And so it was still the same. Like, even at that, it's quality over quantity.
You acquired him as a manager. You didn't create him, right?
It was a combination. I inherited him, but I tried to help him as much. It was.
They said he wanted me over there with him. I mean, I was at a different store, and they moved me over there to help.
But you know what? I am kind of like, I take a little bit of credit for him.
I'll give him some credit. He never let me, because I'm good. Like, I'm a good objection handler.
Oh my God.
For sure, 100%.
And I've always been.
Yes.
He's great on the phone. He's
and
like the best.
Like, Anthony's the one person that just wouldn't take my objection handlers. I remember one time I was giving him my objection handlers and, like, he just wasn't listening. And I was like, all right, I'm done talking, and, like, walked away. And I got, like, a write-up for that.
I mean,
but
you look 25 now, so you probably looked about 12 at that
probably.
He's like, I can't take you serious. You look like you're 12-year-old.
Yeah, but no, it was a good time. I think Definitely McDonald's has a huge thing. I mean, it's not burgers and fries. It's systems, real
It's
estate,
systems
like
and processes, systems and
everything
process.
like that.
Yeah.
I got I used to sell AT&T long. One of my first real sales jobs was selling AT&T long distance on the phone, getting people to switch back like a long time ago for a telemarketing company, and that job got me the next job because it was all scripts. Like it was like you just followed a computer screen and it says they said no this, and you had to take 3 no's before you could get off the phone,
right?
Because you couldn't get past the computer program to not do it, right? Unless they actually hung up on you. And so like when I went to get my next more professional sales job, like I sold them long distance. He goes, "What do you sell?" I can sell you long distance, and I just took him through the script. And it's like, oh, scripts work. It's it's like the little things like that, like everything that we do now. In a lot of ways, like you can see the how the past has shaped us. If you choose to learn from it,
Right.
That's
important.
There's a lot of lessons that people have opportunities to learn that they don't learn, and they just bypass them.
Yeah.
So as we wrap it up, we always ask people 2 questions.
We don't always ask them, but we're going to ask them.
But we're going to ask them. What is your favorite taco place?
My favorite taco place?
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about chain, or we're talking about like a local?
Well, if you say a chain, you're wrong. So go ahead and
Well, this is the thing.
Don't
right?
say Taco Cabana.
I'm not going to say Taco Cabana. If I were to say a chain, I've actually been really surprised with Taco Palenque.
Hey, they're opening up like crazy.
Isn't it San Antonio though?
Is it? I don't know.
I think they're San Antonio.
I don't know.
chain.
They're opening up a lot of stores.
They're opening a lot because they have the one that's right there on 410 and kind of Broadway that's been there forever. So I'm assuming they're local.
They just opened up one at
blowing up.
across from South Park Mall.
They're Matamoros tacos with a side of Fideo is legit.
Really? No, but I also have, and ironically, I was just there yesterday. I have some clients. There is Cerritos. So they have one on WW White and they have one in Floresville. And I am in love with their fajita tacos. They have like great tacos. And, you know, Sylvia is a tough critic. I never hear Sylvia say anything positive. And, you know, it doesn't matter if somebody's our client or not our client. She's going to say whatever she thinks. And she actually invited me yesterday. Like, it was like, hey, let's go to Cerritos. And I'm like, okay. So they have music and stuff like that on the weekends. I haven't been on the weekends, anything like that. But, man, their tacos, every time I've been in there, spot on.
Yeah, that's a new one for us.
Yeah.
Cerritos on WWI.
Yeah.
I've driven by it a bunch of times, but my taco restaurant's like right around the corner from there. So
Where's that?
It's called Montanita. It's like W White. It's Rigsby next to like El Tipico and the Old Beef and Bourbon Steakhouse, like right next door to that.
Okay, yeah.
And what about your favorite burger in San Antonio?
My favorite burger.
Have you taken him to the spot?
Is it McDonald's?
No, absolutely not.
Hey, I just had a McDonald's burger the other
I
day.
mean, I'll eat.
Delilah had a McDouble like she brought home. Like
That's
I
what
was
I
sick to my stomach last night and I haven't eaten today, so I ate like a little piece of that. Like it was good. It's hard to beat a fresh McDouble.
Driving back from Wichita, we
I
got
think
stuck.
a fresh quarter pounder beats that all day.
I don't know. I'm more a fan of the
The
tender one.
McDouble
Really?
cheeseburger with no onions is like their bet. Like back in my day, I would get like the 10-piece nugget large fry with the McDouble cheeseburger. That was like the meal.
But have you gotten a quarter pounder recently?
They're
I
fresh cooked
haven't
now.
been to McDonald's in probably 5 years, and we were coming back from Wichita, and it was in the rest area. And it was like that time, and Elena wanted like just a bag of large fries. I had breakfast. It was like 11:30, and it's one of those nights like, God dang it, dude! I wanted the egg McMuffin. Like that egg McMuffin and like is the shit. But
Their breakfast is hard to beat.
I'll take a McDouble cheeseburger all
No,
day.
so
I like thin patties.
I
though.
used to like the double cheeseburger. That was like my go-to. Probably also because I'm cheap.
But now they're $4.
But now they have that quarter pounder, and it's always fresh. And it's like since I left, but I love that quarter pounder now. I love it. But that's not my favorite burger. I don't know.
Have you been to Mr. Juicy?
I have not been yet.
You have homework.
I have homework. Okay.
Why don't you take him, Mr. Juice?
You trying to spend my money?
Well, we're gonna talk. We'll take him to Mr. Juicy and get a recap on Charlie Chan.
I can snag that one.
Snag that one.
It's all right. It has termites.
Did you get that engineering report? So thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
It's fun. We should have you back in like we'll just tell like rehab stories.
I love it.
Because we'll leave the dead rat in the middle of the floor for next time that he found.
Do us a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Where can they follow you, Anthony?
Anthony J. White on Facebook, Perfect Site on Instagram. Those are the two I'm mainly at.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.